year. We're borrowing more to cover the cost of COVID-19, including £35 billion on the furlough scheme, another £8.5 billion on support for the self-employed, and £180 million on e.c.t to help out.
As of September the 20th, 2020, the overall cost of the United Kingdom's job retention scheme was £39.3 billion. Since the scheme was introduced at the start of the coronavirus pandemic, it has grown in size to cover the wages of 9.6 million jobs, with the scheme set to be gradually phased out by October 2020. This then got me thinking, why can't countries print more money? Poverty, disease, and world hunger. All things that could be solved by money. Considering we're the ones who created money in the first place, couldn't we just print more money to help solve all of these global issues? To put it simply, yes. Printing money is something that is done all the time by governments as it creates inflation. While there are no laws in place to stop countries from doing this, and has even been done by a number of countries in the past, this is done when an economy's output gap is not at capacity, which suggests that an economy is running at an insufficient rate, meaning there is unused labour or resources. Inflation theoretically helps increase production. More money translates to more spending, which leads to a higher demand, which in turn triggers more production to meet that demand. However, when a country tries to get richer by printing more money in excess, it rarely works. This is because if everyone has more money, the demand for a product would rise, which would lead to prices skyrocketing, which would then lead to people needing more and more money to buy the same amount of goods as before. Some recent examples of this actually happening would be in Venezuela in 2016 and Zimbabwe in 2018, when these countries printed more and more money to try and grow their economies. As more money was being printed, prices rose faster until these countries both began to suffer from something called hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is when a country's prices for goods and services rise by an amazing amount a year, and is often caused by governments that print more money than its nation's gross domestic product can support. In 2008, when Zimbabwe was hit by hyperinflation, prices rose as much as 231 million% in a single year. To put that into perspective, imagine a sweet that cost $1 Zimbabwean dollar would now cost 231 million Zimbabwean dollars a year later, which meant that the amount of paper it took to print the notes on would have been worth more than what was printed on it. If the prices went up too fast, people would stop using the currency altogether. This would then result in people swapping goods for other goods, or asked to be paid in other more wealthier currencies like the US dollar, which is what Zimbabwe, Venezuela and many other countries hit by hyperinflation did. You might be thinking, why didn't these countries try to protect their people from this? Well, Venezuela did try and protect its people from hyperinflation by passing laws to keep prices low on necessities like food and medicine. However, this just meant that the shops sold out of these cheap items extremely quickly. So, to recap. The reason why banks cannot just make more money is because after a while the inflation will become too much. The price of everything would increase past the point of consumers being able to afford it, which would be due to there being so much more demand in the economy and not enough supply. This dramatic rise in demand and money would then lead to hyperinflation, which in turn would just worsen the country's current financial situation.